This episode kicks off a brand new format of the Peax Thrive Vodcast, Thrive Live on Location. We're coming to you straight from the Total Archery Challenge in Red Lodge, Montana. Fair warning, this episode hits a little differently. I'm joined by Cody Rich, one of the most prolific and sharpest e-scouting minds in the elk finding game. When we sat down, we swore we would not talk e-scouting, and then we couldn't help ourselves, and it didn't take long. This is part one of a two-part conversation packed with real-world elk hunting insight, hard-earned lessons, and serious backcountry tactics that we've never talked about before. Cody and I tend to give away way too much, and this time is no exception. If you've ever wondered what it really takes to succeed on public land or what the future of elk hunting in the West is shaping up to be, you're in the right place. Let's get to it. All right, folks, welcome back to the Thrive Vodcast. We're back on site at the Total Archery Challenge. This one, when I get with this guy, it's usually 2 hours plus.
I don't think we've ever done a 1 hour podcast. So we'll see how it goes.
But some of the best podcasts I think that I've ever done have been with Cody. And there's very few dudes that geek out on e-scouting as much as he does. So I really like when I get a chance to sit down with him and talk. We're going to try not to talk too much e-scouting today. So you're here. Are you shooting?
I already shot.
You're already done.
Yeah, I went up at 5:45.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to go twice today.
So how was it?
It was good. It was really good. I was like trail breaking. So we were first group through, and so there's not a trail developed yet. So we had to figure it out for some people, but yeah.
Oh, so you had to kind of find the targets then. It was kind of like a real hunt.
Yeah, it was a scavenger hunt, and there was archery targets too. So yeah.
So nobody got shot.
Nobody got shot. We did take a wrong turn somewhere and like almost ended up on another course, but we figured it out. We got straightened out. So.
Okay. All right.
I lost an arrow.
You did.
I haven't lost an arrow at one of these things in I don't know, a long time. I missed a 24-yard shot on a beaver, and that thing's gone, which that one's going to hurt. So,
who'd you shoot with?
The Bearded Butcher guys.
Okay, yeah. Is Scott, are they here?
Yeah, they're right here.
Oh, man, I haven't seen him yet. Oh, yeah. I hope I get to see him. Both of them?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Seth, Scott, all the kids are here. So
okay.
Yeah, we were reminiscing because you and I were on that hunt with them last time they were out here.
Yeah, and they just sent me that knife, and it was freaking awesome. And
should we talk about the Bob Marshall?
Yeah, let's talk about it. I put out a show 3-4 weeks ago. You can check it out, The Death of the Bob Marshall, and I got a lot of heat on it. But all of it was people don't want to accept the truth. Cody, you know.
I'm a little bit hesitant on it as well. So context, I've hunted the Bob Marshall. Done really well. I've done really well and done really poor. Like it's such a hit and miss place anyway. Interesting concept here we could talk about, but there's e-scouting, and you could say like, I don't know, there's this feature, right? You could put all those places together and still not find out. And the Bob Marshall is one of those places where it's like, man, it is a needle in a haystack, but when you find those pockets, they're really, really good. So you had posted this thing, something to the effect the elk numbers are essentially down to like 300, you told me?
They're down to 300, but the real problem there is what people will not accept is the calf mortality rate is 15 per 100. So all of the experts that I was able to research articles on says that anything below 20 and the herd is unsustainable for the future.
Oh, wow.
So it's now at about a 15.
Survival rate is 15 per 100
calves. So it's dismal. So the future, what I'm saying in the show, I never once said there's no elk in the Bob.
Hey, you said there's 300.
I'm said they're in trouble, right? They're in trouble, and we still go in there on September 15th with a rifle, and we still...
Yeah, but how many guys are even killing an elk on...
No, I know they're not, but every little bit helps, right?
Right.
But the real problem is, it's not the hunting pressure, it's the predator killing, right? We're not killing the fawns. So the 15% or the 15 per 100 is a predator issue, obviously. I don't know what the solution is. You know, it's hard to hunt predators in those remote areas. Nobody's got that much interest in going in 20 miles to hunt predators. Dude. So it's a problem. But like the Bob, what's crazy about it is, like, you've hunted. I've not hunted it a whole lot except for bears. I've not hunted it for elk, a little bit for deer, but not much. It's just got one of the most amazing places like on earth.
It isn't. There's the entire wilderness problem too, where it's like most of that country could be much better habitat for. It's a jungle. A lot of that place, like, I wouldn't say it's inhabitable. It's rough. Like, it's not good habitat for elk. And I think that's another piece of it. Like, you get a lot of these animals that are kind of, the reason they're pockety is because half of that country is blow down so thick you can't walk through it, right? And so it's like you had these burns, didn't do anything with it. The burns all fall over. You got regrowth coming up through. Rinse and repeat that 2 or 3 times. And it's like, elk aren't living in that.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be better. So, I mean, like, interesting. I don't know if you want to talk that stuff as far as like e-scouting some of these places. Like, how do you know where's good, where's not?
Well, we've talked about this before. And so people get all worked up when I tell them, they're like, well, Oregon and Washington, Mark, what do we do? There's roads everywhere. And I said, guys, in reality,
That don't matter.
it's easier to e-scout areas that, in my opinion, it's easier to e-scout areas with higher pressure than the wilderness areas. The elk could be anywhere. And you're looking, like you said, needle in a haystack. So you've got to be even more dialed with how you're breaking it down. When I look for 12 features. I've talked about that a million times. And when it comes to places at wilderness areas and low populations and all these factors, you need to see a lot of the factors. You can't just be looking for north slopes. You can't just be looking for the right slope steepness. You can't be just looking for a good bench. It's got to have multiples, because like the elk have all this area to pick from. Let's say there's 300 elk in there. I didn't say there's 300 elk in the entire bob. It's 300 in these 2 management units. The 150, 141, whatever the ones I covered in the show. I kind of forgot the numbers, but
It's the rifle ones, right?
yeah, the rifle ones. You're breaking down a vast amount of country, and it's even more, e-scouting is even more important, because walking into the wilderness and finding a bull is not easy. And people think that, if I get back there's not going to be any pressure. There's not going to be, might not be any elk too.
Yeah.
And so do you agree with that statement?
I agree with that statement. I think features matter. When I think about wilderness, I know this is going to differ from your philosophy, but I want efficiency. I want to be, because like anybody who's been back there, it's such an effort to like even move from one drainage to the next, right? It is a mass amount of effort. So the more you can string those together efficiently, I don't know very many people other than, like Lampers or someone, where you can go in, hunt this and then hunt that and then hunt that. And it's like most guys are going to get burnt out after 2 spots.
Yeah.
That's the reality. Like, it's just a lot of effort. When you take somewhere like the wilderness, you could say the Bob, the Frank, any of them that are very difficult places. Yeah, they all have pretty good features. You can have every feature and still not have elk. So it becomes like, how fast can you search the area?
Yeah.
And so much of it is like, can you efficiently bounce from one location to the next and like cover that ground without wearing yourself out, which is kind of the reality.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, when you say like most guys are probably going to go in there and get burnt out. If you're got llamas, you can do that. It's a little bit easier with stock. You're bouncing. But if you're having to climb peaks and you're like, your plan is to go in, you're going to hike 2,000 up here and 1,000 up here and 1,000 over here. How many days do you think the average guy is going to last?
Exactly. I agree with that 100%. And this is why I talk about this all the time. If you're going into a remote area like this and you do not have a progressive hunt plan, I call it progressive,
right?
Meaning where you got the plan from camp A to camp B to camp C, and you got your glassing spots all tested, all verified. Because like you said, there's nothing worse than climbing up 1,000 feet to a glassing spot when you get up there and it's not what you thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Or even the route, like it takes you all day.
And you thought you left at 5 o'clock in the morning and you got there at noon.
Yeah.
Well, you missed the morning, right?
Yeah.
So I talk about this in my planning routes, getting spots, and I call it progressive where, in a wilderness, if you could do it, I think the optimal in my mind would be to hunt a loop or a point to point where you're not covering the same country in a wilderness situation.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's hard to do. I get it. But if you can work it out into a progressive loop or park a truck, hunt through, things like that, I think that's a winner in those heavy roadless areas. Now, the good thing about some of these lesser desirable places is you typically don't run into as many people, right? Hunting pressure isn't as bad as other places. So you kind of, I'm not going to say you have it to yourself, but the elk are less pressured. So if you're a caller, the opportunities might be, if you do get the opportunities, they could work out well for you, in my opinion, versus another spot where I just talked to Corey Jacobson, and he, arguably one of the best callers, and he tells me like how many times a year he gets turned down by elk. They come and they just leave.
Yeah.
And if he can't call them in, there's not many people going through. Right, I'm a host. And I've actually learned a lot from you over the years. I've kind of studied you like a case study. You and Lampers and Brian Barney are kind of like the two I've watched the most, or the three. And the way you guys have, now you still call and you still do some things, but man,
it's a tool.
You don't like to give away your position unless you have to, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You like, I think Ryan said it, the minute.
Here comes trouble.
Yeah, the minute they know where you're at, the odds are against you at that,
Yeah.
or could be against you, and you kind of got one shot.
Yep.
It either works out, but if you're quiet and you're spotting stock and your wind is good and it doesn't work out, well, you got another play the next day.
You like think about it like a super precision tool, right? And you're like, okay, I'm gonna save this card, my whatever, until I really need it, and then I can use it. And like sometimes you need it, right? We were talking about wilderness stuff. Jade and I are planning a hunt this year, and so mapping stuff out. And I got a question for you. We were talking a lot of our route planning. When you think about efficiency, it's like, man, get up high and you can cover more ground. You can see down more. It's easier to look down than look up, right? Yeah. Especially really big country. In your opinion, would you rather be up high on a ridge or down low?
Dude, I'm telling you, because
you get like trails down low, you can cover way more ground.
I know. And I just had this conversation with Ryan about this, and with bears in particular, we covered this in our bear course, which is very similar to elk. We have decided that the efficiency of being on the trail and looking up for bears is way more efficient than climbing and having to move and climbing, having to move and climbing, having to move. And those ridge tops are sometimes hard to move on, even though the elevations are more reasonable, but they still have a lot of dips and there's no trail. So you're navigating off trail, so it's slower.
Yep.
It depends. Like in really, really open country, I think glassing from low is a winner. But in marginal, like you talk about looking at sparse timber a lot, right?
Yeah.
It's a money, right? A lot of guys don't understand it. But what I mean is looking across slopes, if the angle is steep enough and the timber is sparse enough, guys, you can pick up a lot of elk moving around in those timbers. Well, that can't be done from the bottom. It's a top-only game almost for that, right? So a lot of it depends on the scenario. But if you're trying to cover a lot of country, so what I would like to see is you get in a spot where you are finding elk, then you move to the top.
Yeah.
If you could pick up a sign that you're in an area that is being inhabited, then make the move to the high spot. But the thing I want to go back to is run the view sheds. Guys, I mean, these tools, onX has it now, which I'm so happy they've got a view shed tool. And in some ways, it's pretty amazing because you can actually drag the mouse around and the view shed will change on you. I'll show that on the screen right now, actually. And you can see how the view shed changes. In Google Earth, it has it, but you have to run it. You have to run it from a position, and then you have to move it and run it again. Now, I like the Google Earth view shed better, but it's laborious process because you got to run it till you find the right spot. Do not get captivated on the highest spot is the best view. It's not always. There's
so true.
Benches that stick out, different things. So analyzing those high quality aerial images, you're looking for the view shed from the spot, but you're also looking for vegetation on your glassing spot.
Yeah.
And
it's like, well, and I'll say this. So there's two variables to this. One, so when I think about Wyoming and where I'm planning right now, I'm doing a lot of e-scouting. And so like it's top of mind. Very different because you start at the bottom and everything is very, very big, very big.
So a lot of effort.
A lot of effort. And, but so where I came from is Oregon, and Oregon, everything starts on top and you have big, big canyons, but a lot of effort to, go the other way. What I found was that the elk like to live in Oregon, the elk like to live in the bottom third, let's say bottom half. Like big bulls live away from the pressure. Common sense. I think the same is true in Wyoming. A lot of those bulls are up in those pockets that can't be seen from the bottoms, right? So you talk about Wyoming, Western wilderness, everyone's just riding these trails, right? I think there's a lot of opportunity for stuff that gets, stock rides right by them. They're not looking up in there. These pockets aren't quite, it's a lot of effort for a little spot. And that's what I'm more focused on, is not like I can see the whole world. It's big country, it's open country, lots of people have stock. Everyone's looked there, right? If you're looking for the bull that's going to get old, I'm looking for the micro pockets, but that's going to be up high, right? I think a lot of those bulls are away from traffic. It's pretty simple.
You talk about this all the time. You talk about the roadless areas being like there are no-go zones for you.
Yeah, I'm out.
And you look for geographical features that separate you from the hunters more than, am I right? Like a river, a creek, a steep ass, a cliff bank. Something that people are not going to do.
Here's another way to use your view shed. I haven't ever told anybody this. So if you run your view shed along a trail, you can tell what people can see and what people can't see.
That's exactly right.
And so sometimes you look at Google Earth or onX, whatever you're using, and you're like, oh, it's right off the trail. But if you run it.
Hold on. Back up on that. So I'm going to show that right now.
Okay.
This is where onX wins. Okay. This is where onX separates from Google Earth, because you can't do that in Google Earth unless you just drop pins all the way.
Yeah, right.
But in onX, you can drag along the trail, as I'm showing you right now. You can drag along the trail and see what they could see.
Yeah. There's so much where you can't see up in these pockets that are beautiful pockets.
Well, and I mean, I know you're a horse guy too, but I'm going to kind of throw horse guys under the boat here. They can go wherever they want.
They don't.
And they can go deep, but they don't because there's no reason. They can get into elk. They're going to ride till they can get into elk. So I'm going to give you an example. So I was hunting in a Wyoming spot, and I had packed in. I didn't have my llamas at the time. It was my first year in Montana. I was waiting. I was on my waiting list for my llamas, but I didn't have them the first year I moved here. So I packed in this spot. We were only 7-8 miles in, but pretty good pack, pretty hard pack. We're on the side of the trail. There's nobody at the trail. We went in 2 days before the season. The day before, dude, it was pack train after pack train after pack train. And I'm like, holy crap. And these guys are just horses just going by our camp. And I'm like, wow. And so finally, this one young kid, he didn't have any clients, but he had a whole string of gear. He was coming in. He stops and he got off, which usually doesn't happen. I mean, you know, most horse guys are antisocial. And so he gets off, he's talking, he goes, hey, how'd you guys find this spot? And I'm like, well, I said, e-scouted and
you're like, I'm the best in the world at e-scouting.
You don't know who you're talking to here. No.
Do you know who I am?
You know who I am. But no, I said, you know what? I never do boots on the ground. I said, but I came here in July and I had 19 6-point bulls in this meadow. And I said, I know that doesn't mean anything, you know, for now, but it looks good. I found a lot of old rubs and it scouted out great. And I said, thought we tried. He goes, oh, this is a money spot. I'm like, really? And I'm like, well, so why aren't you hunting it? He goes, well, we can't. I'm like, what do you mean we can't? He goes, well, we can't load clients up and ride 7 miles and get off the horse. They think they got ripped off. So he goes, instead, we're going to ride 25 miles and hunt way less elk, but they're going to feel like they're deep.
Yeah.
And I'm like, seriously. He goes, now what we will do, this was so funny. He goes, we'll circle the horses around and take a long way back close to this area. He goes, but this is the Mecca area. He goes, we just can't hunt it. He goes, and once you get off the road, like you said, there were some big meadows that were not visible from the trail, just like you're saying. No trail to them, and it was not fun. But we mapped a way through the best and got in there, and we killed 3 bulls in 4 days. I mean, they weren't exceptional bulls, but we had great luck and great success. But these outfitters riding right by it because that was a weird reason that.
Yeah,
but you think about it, you pay a certain amount of money and you're only on the horse for an hour and you go, all right, we're here.
Yeah, I'd be stoked about that. You know, and the other thing, I mean, there's a lot of horse guys who want to be able to get a horse to the pack out, right? Like, why do I have these things if I have to carry it on my back? There's a lot of that. I mean, most guys, I'm going to say most, there's a significant chunk that they're just trying to get an elk, man. Yeah. They're just trying to fill a freezer. Not trying to, like, you know, kill the biggest bull. They're not trying to kill, whatever. So, like, if they can get there, and there's plenty of places you can ride a horse, right, too.
That's right. Shoot and that's the thing. They go far enough. They're out. Yeah. They're away from everybody with a backpack. Yeah. Especially Wyoming, man. There's some long distance stuff there, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're 10 miles, like, you're just scratching this.
Yeah, you're not even.
How do you think about e-scouting for mega bulls? What looks different to you?
Dude, do you know who you're talking to? I haven't even killed anything over 350 bull. And, you're the giant killer.
Well, that's why I'm asking you. How do you think about it differently?
Now, so I think what I've learned, I'm looking for areas that have all of the stuff, right? Like I'm really fixated on these 12 features. But when I find an area that has 6 or 7 of the core money makers, I call, then I start saying, where's the nastiest spot in this? Where's the spot that I don't want to go?
Yeah.
Like I'm like, oh, no trail, blow down. I don't want to go there. I think that's where the megas are. I think they're still attracted to those features because there's cows there. There's, especially during the rut.
Right. If we call it very different ruts.
Yeah, but I feel like the places that you don't want to go is where you need to go. If you're looking for kind of a next level bull in an area that has all the right things, but the easy country is easy country. And big 4-inch bulls I have not seen many that like easy country or want to be in easy country for very long.
Yeah.
Even during the rut, man, it's crazy how I've watched these bulls the last few years. I've been hunting this area where the bulls they let these small bulls hang out with the herds for a while.
Yeah.
And then they just run in when it's time and take over, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And you just don't know when that's going to be always, right? It's always the magic, what date's that going to be? And the equinox and the moon, everybody's trying to figure it out, right? And, but it's crazy. I've watched it over and over again, especially in open, like Eastern type countries in Montana. But,
well, like the way I think about like the big bull, there's all those, take the nastiest place. It's probably the most likely for a big bull to be, but I still think it's it's a pendulum. Like it's a slidey scale where like the harder the spot is to get to, yeah, there might be a big bull there, but like you're not efficient now. It's like I can only hunt that one spot. Takes me a full day to get there. I check it. There's nothing. Takes me a full day to get out. And I learned this from a lot of big buck hunters, like big buck killers. It's like, you got to be able to just see everything, right? And big bucks are where they are. That's a little bit different in the rut, late season rut, right? Like could be anywhere.
Yeah.
Where, if I think about late season bulls, hold up, pockets, like those nasty pockets, they can be overlooked. But when I'm e-scouting, a lot of what I'm looking for is just the balance between like, can I efficiently like hunt multiple of these pockets, but also is it overlooked? Is it, somewhere a 12-year-old bull could be that no one's seen this bull for 12 years. Like that takes a lot. You really think about it, even a 10-year-old.
Dude, that's what I was getting ready to say.
Yeah.
The age class of this bull means he's made it through
10 seasons.
Not over the counter, but a pretty heavily hunted unit, DIY, guys rolling in, and he survived 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Dude, he doesn't do it by running out in the meadows at 8 a.m. Even during the rut, it's crazy how these bulls have made it. All these giant bull killers, they just don't call anymore. Almost every giant bull killer I know does not call them. Now, it doesn't mean they don't call one in every now and then.
Right.
But they just, they go after, they let them make the mistake. They haunt them until they make a mistake. They put themselves in there where the bedroom's at, and they live with them. They're glued to the wind. They back out when the wind isn't good. They give no opportunity for that bull to know they're there, and eventually they kill it.
What do you say to the guy that says, I just want to call elk because that's the fun part?
Well, that's it. And I used to be that guy. I love it. There's nothing floats my boat more. But I've decided in the last 6 or 7 years that I want to kill bigger bulls. And
I think you can still have fun. Like you don't have to.
Well, no, you got to pick your poison. But the last 3 years I've dedicated to, I'm not totally spot and stock, but I'm in areas that are like what I've been doing, spot and move to them and calf call.
Yeah.
No mature cows, very little bull sounds. That's been pretty effective.
That's a good strategy.
I wasn't on board with the Joel Turner strategy in the beginning, but he's opened my eyes. I do believe him now that calf sounds are less intimidating, and you can get away with it. Yeah. If you make a calf sound, the bull's not going to run off.
Yep.
Now, he may not come, but you don't ruin your chance.
Yep.
You go in there and blow a challenge bugle, you could have a problem.
Yeah, you don't get that like fight tomorrow.
Yeah. They just don't come to fight every time you blow on that tube. So, no, I still think, like, going back to this, you find areas that have all the features that elk want, and then you look for the pockets in that zone that seem to be the places that just jump out at you that you don't want to go, where the trail stops and where the little side micro drainages. So I say this all the time. You get a big, long drainage, like in Wyoming, the guys are just wearing the trail out. They're hiking in, they're hiking out. The micro drainages and the little feeder basins that are up, but you got to put the effort to get up there.
I like the ones that are, God, we're giving too much here. I like the ones that are like the Trident.
We're not going to talk about e-scouting.
I always give everything the Trident.
Basins.
Where it's like, it's off the same. It's on a side hill. It's not
the main drainage.
It's not a spoon basin, but it's like, it goes up and then it has a 3. Like, for some reason, I really like this.
Well, and with no trail to them.
Yeah. But it's like on the side of a hill where like they'll go up and have Trident little split.
Even guys on those, like,
hold on, I just
even like the South Slope ones where guys don't want to go.
Yeah.
But when you go up there, guys,
there's micro north slopes.
You got the micro north slopes. And it almost makes the elk even more predictable in those areas.
Oh, 100%.
Because they're going to be on those little
full north slopes. Like, good luck. It's a whole
like
mountain
area. Yeah. like, so I hunted an area in Idaho, and I almost hate to even say it because it's going to be not easy, but you could probably pick it up. The whole freaking unit is damn near South Slope, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I looked for just that. I looked for these curves. A lot of these drainages will go up and they'll curve back, right? And when they curve back, that whole little north face, dude, there were elk in almost every one of those.
Nice.
And I was hot that year, and it had low water, so all the conditions were right. But those what it did was it took a massive amount of potential elk country, and I was able to isolate it down to 10 spots. If you're looking for the Cadillac of shelters in the backcountry, look no further than the Dyneema version of the Peax Solitude 4 TP. I've been running this exact shelter for over a year now, and it's an absolute fortress. No stretch, no sag, no water retention. Just ultralight, bomb-proof performance in the most brutal conditions the West can throw at you. This is hunting's best shelter, built with the world's best fabric. This TP simply outperforms any other option. The restock will be available Thursday, July 10th at 7 p.m. Mountain Time on peaksequipment.com. Don't delay, they're going to go fast. This was not just another podcast conversation. When Cody is involved, it always turns into an elk hunting masterclass. I learned so much every time we get together, and this was no exception. We went deep on public land realities, backcountry efficiency, wilderness e-scouting strategies, and yes, we gave away more than we probably should have. This is the kind of stuff that motivates Western hunters to up their elk finding game. Cody is definitely the real deal, and we're not done yet. Join us next week on the Thrive Vodcast for part 2 as we push even further into advanced e-scouting tactics, pressure dynamics, high elevation moisture analysis, and the overlooked strategies that consistently produce bulls. If you're serious about elevating your Western hunts, you're not going to want to miss part 2. I'll see you next time.